This city exists in a place where it shouldn't. There is no land beneath it. There is no life above it. And yet, it's there. People built this. But here's the real problem. There was no reason for them to. No resources, no necessity, no logic. So the question isn't, how did they build it? The question is, why were they forced to build it? Micronesia, a point your eyes glide over on the map. And within that point, Pohnpei, dense, humid, silent, an island already difficult to reach. But that's not the real issue. When you arrive at the shore, you see something that shouldn't be there. Nan Madol. The first reaction is always the same. This must be a mistake. Just beyond the coast, rising from shallow coral waters, are massive walls made of basalt blocks. And that's only the beginning. Walls over 10 meters high, centuries old, still standing despite the ocean. 92 artificial islets, connected by canals, an area of 800 hectares, millions of tons of basalt. And now the real problem. How did these stones get here? Each one weighs tons. Some stretch up to 6 meters long. They were cut, transported, stacked. But the nearest basalt source is on the opposite side of the island, kilometers across the sea. No machines, no metal, just humans. It's been calculated, over and over again. Same result. This scale doesn't make sense. Thousands of people doing the same thing for years, all mobilized for a single purpose. What if we're asking the wrong question? What if the answer has been right in front of us all along? If no one forced them, why did they do it? If someone did, who? The local people of Pohnpei tell the story of the Saudeleur dynasty. Two brothers, Olasipa and Olasopa. According to legend, they arrived from distant lands in a canoe. They brought magic, power, divine revelation. And by that command, they began building a city on the water. The Saudeleur dynasty lasted for centuries, 16 rulers, generation after generation, and every one of them ruled from Nan Madol. They controlled the entire island from here. Then the most critical detail emerges. The people could not enter. Even passing by the city required strict rituals. There were rules, silence, distance, restricted access. This city was not for everyone. It never was. A city without people, a capital, but closed. And this was no accident. This city was not built for the people. It was built for power. Everyone makes the same mistake. They focus on how it was built. But as long as we're stuck on that question, we miss the real one. Why build a city on water? At such cost? There were hundreds of places they could have built on land, but they chose water, deliberately. This is not a defensive structure. It is a structure of distance, a conscious decision. Water created a natural barrier. It protected against attacks from the sea. But that explanation stops somewhere. The real threat was their own people. Water wasn't a wall, it was a line of separation, a visible, physical, difficult-to-cross distance placed between ruler and people. Reaching it required power, and that power belonged to one person. This city wasn't built despite the ocean. It was built because of it. Because water is a controllable obstacle. And this wasn't just physical, it was symbolic, a powerful symbol. In Micronesian culture, water is the boundary between worlds, between the living and the dead, between humans and gods, between the ordinary and the sacred. Entering water is a rite of passage. Crossing it is transformation. The rulers of Nan Madol understood this perfectly. They built their city on water. They separated themselves not just physically, but symbolically. Reaching it wasn't just a journey, it was crossing a threshold. And the one who could cross that threshold had to be something more than human. the ruler, the representative of the gods, the bridge between mortal and immortal. And that bridge was physically built on water. One of the most mysterious structures of Nan Madol is Nan Dawas. Surrounded by massive basalt walls containing burial chambers, it was the spiritual center of the island. The Saudeleur rulers were buried here, but not just their bodies, their power too. Before ascending the throne, the next ruler would come here, connect with the spirits of his ancestors. The dead were still speaking here, or at least, that's what people believed. And the only one who could hear those voices was the next ruler. The legends say more. Some local accounts claim the stones of Nan Madol were not lifted from the ground. They were flown. They say the Saudeleur brothers used a magical dragon to lift the stones into place. Other versions speak of divine intervention, a construction process beyond human capability. Because when you can't explain something, you sanctify it, and people fear what they don't understand. They cover the unexplainable with the supernatural. But maybe we should think the opposite. Maybe these legends were spread deliberately. When a ruler teaches his people that the stones of his city were flown by magic, what does he gain? Fear, awe, and unquestioned authority. The myth itself was control, and that control was invisible. Then it ended, suddenly. The dynasty fell, the city was abandoned, and the most disturbing question emerged. Why didn't they return? Was it because they truly didn't want to? The answer is still unclear. Maybe the new rulers didn't want to use the old regime's space. Maybe the practical difficulties of living there became unbearable. No fresh water, limited food, constant humidity. Maybe the people never really loved that city. Maybe its disappearance felt like freedom. Some Pohnpei stories say Nan Madol is cursed, that ancestral spirits still wander there, that voices echo through the canals at night, that there are eyes beneath the water. These stories had a purpose, to ensure no one would ever return. And the story doesn't end here, it actually begins. The city we see is not the whole thing. Part of it is still underwater. Additional structures have been found beneath the surface. So, in reality, we don't fully know what we're looking at. Maybe we never will. A city beneath a city, a secret beneath a secret. Throughout human history, those in power have always done the same thing. They separated themselves. They always delivered the same message. I am here, you are there. I can cross this threshold, you cannot. I am closer to the divine, you are not. This is not just a city, it is a display of power. Other civilizations built palaces on hills, temples on peaks. They turned height into power. These rulers didn't go higher, they moved away. They chose water. And that choice changes everything. Because distance creates obedience. Water is a horizontal barrier, visible to all, understood by all, but not crossed by all. A hill may be closer to the sky, but it can be climbed. Water is different. It stands, it watches, and it says, you cannot pass. The architecture of a city reflects the worldview of those who built it. Nan Madol doesn't tell us about a technical achievement, it tells us about an ideology, a philosophy of power, a strategy of control. In the middle of the ocean stands a city, an idea made of stone, and that idea is this: power creates distance. 1,000 years ago they did it with water. What do we use today? And perhaps the most disturbing truth is this: we no longer even notice it.